from Montgomery High School, the season opener for your Petaluma Trojans varsity football team as they take on the Montgomery Vikings. The full game with play-by-play and more is coming up right now. What a shot! And a very good evening to you. I am Griffin Epstein. We are here at Montgomery High School's football field, the long-awaited return of varsity football. It is here once again 1 week early here in August, and what a matchup the Trojans have to open up their season. It was one of the best games last year between these two, also to open up the season down at the Casa Grande field. It was the home game for the Trojans, and they won a thriller, 55-42. These teams will match up again, and Montgomery returns with a lot of their offensive weapons back, but the Trojans return with Garrett Freitas, who had his breakout game that announced himself to the football world last year with 2 kickoff return touchdowns against Montgomery, and you know he is looking for more in this game and the entire season. The Trojans hoping to start off their season right. It should be a very competitive and close game here against the Vikings. Stay tuned. We've got the full game coming up right here on Trojan Live. All right, we welcome you up top of Jason Francie Field here at the Montgomery High football field. Unfortunately, it's not that high up because you cannot actually get on top of the press box here at Montgomery, but it's the best angle we have. Also, the PA announcer is very loud when he talks, so you might not be able to hear me. We are dealing with limited mics early here in the year. But away from all the difficulties, let's get to the excitement, as there is the PA announcer overshadowing me.
The opening kickoff.
Trojans are going to receive the kickoff. They just did the coin toss. Captains for the Trojans, Garrett Freitas, Derek Pomey, Deanna DeCarly, and Logan Waggers. Shows a strong offensive and defensive line for the Trojans, but it's a secondary that is going to be key tonight. We'll talk about that in a minute because the national anthem is coming up, but kickoff is right after this. All right, we are ready to go here. You can see the 2018 Petaluma High Trojans in the background. Behind them, a little student section and a trickling of Trojan fans that made the way up. It's going to be a hostile atmosphere here tonight. The Red Storm of Montgomery is making noise, but Garrett Freitas is going to get the ball in his hands first if Montgomery is not smart with this kickoff as we get ready to go. The football season underway, 9 months of waiting for the returners on the Trojans. Resumed today. Montgomery had one of the most potent offenses in all of Sonoma County last year. They returned nearly all their players. They only lost 12 seniors from last year. But the Trojans, even though they do lose a lot of key people from last year, we'll see Cole Powers as well. And the Trojans should put up some points on the board. As I mentioned in the open, high scoring is expected. Trojans lost 22 seniors from last year. They return 11 seniors this year, 6 offensively, including Sembita and DeCarly on the offensive line as well.
Kicking off for Montgomery, number 25, Reese Martin.
Freitas is back. Reese Martin to kick it away for the Vikings. Would not be surprised if they would rather kick out of bounds the Freitas. 2 touchdown returns against Montgomery last year, including the first kickoff of the season. Here we go. They tried to avoid getting it to Freitas, and it's bobbled and picked up by another Trojan, and that caused some issues as Freitas tried to get it, and he was called off
Devin Ramirez for the return
by
first met by number 55, Matt Carr, and the Vikings tackle the Trojans at their 10-yard
Dominic Butts, contrary to whatever random name the PA announcer gave. And so the Trojans will start all the way back on their 10-yard line. Massive miscommunication there. Butts speedy, but you got to give that up to Freitas. But we are underway and ready to go. Cole Powers under center and ready to run a lethal trip option for the Trojans. They put up 55 points. Justin Wolbert was quarterbacking that team. And a little give up the middle, a little toss and shuffle almost to Freitas, and there was nowhere to go there. Good tackle made by Gavin Howes, the junior defensive tackle for the Vikings. Trojans return 2 offensive linemen from last year, as we mentioned, in Sambita and DeCarly, and they have had to shuffle a lot of people around. Injuries, grades, illnesses have caused all sorts of issues on the O-line. Nick Ayers, normally at tight end, is at right guard today. Daniel DeCarly under center. And at left guard, as that handoff up the middle, Sambita at left guard. Colton Prieto gets the carry for 3 yards, and it's 3rd down and 7.
Picks up about 6 yards.
So the Trojans with 3rd and long here. Very conservative plays to start. Haven't even seen the triple option just yet. And Montgomery played them last year, so they do know it. And they had all sorts of issues with it. But Freitas was really the one causing the trouble. Always good to get football back underway. We have a whistle and a timeout, I believe. Coach Chris walking out. I do not think he's happy the way the Trojans have started this offensive drive. And there's going to be some jitters, and there's a lot of new players out there for the Trojans. Working on my spreadsheet for the year, so many names had to be replaced from last year. And there's a lot of talent still on this roster that could lead to something special this year, but it doesn't mean that there won't be some growing pains. And the Trojans can't afford early losses is the issue, because their schedule gets harder as the season goes on. Much different than last year and really the years before when they played in the Sonoma County League. That's really the big headline this year. Playing in the Vine Valley Athletic League, they'll see Napa, Vintage, American Canyon. Much more challenging league schedule for the Trojans. Mariano Jaramillo starting at left end today, and then Matt Salyers at left guard. So that rounds out your offensive line there, but 2 of those players on JV, and 1 has not played offensive line since he was likely with the Petaluma Panthers. So there are not a lot of holes early, and that means wide receivers are going to be key, but just still 1 split out to the right of Powers. He'll toss out to Freitas. You want to get him in open space, and he takes a huge hit. Montgomery looks ready to go, and then Freitas looked like he fell down. No issue there. B.J. Johnson with the tackle. He's one of the captains for the Vikings, and we will be mentioning him again tonight.
Gain of only a yard.
Freitas gets 1, and that was not the best first possession that the Trojans wanted there. They did not look comfortable. They looked nervous. Just overall didn't look like they wanted to do anything too crazy. That toss to Freitas was the most ambitious play that they had on that drive. And Powers' arm has looked good in the scrimmage. It's looked good in practices. You have to feel like he's got a shot if he can trust his receivers, but the main issue for him, as Nick Ayers is going to boot away a short punt, takes a Trojan bounce. It's still fielded. Good blocks up front. Now he's got room to his right. More missed tackles and still going. Down the sideline, he's broken away. 1 last tackle, he will break it. Touchdown, Vikings. There is a flag on the field. This is coming back. There's a huge celebration by the Vikings, but there's going to be holding here. Well, missed tackles were a major concern for the Trojans, especially with their backups that are going to be on special teams. And you saw it right there. And where that flag is, as you can see at the 20-yard line, Vikings are still going to get excellent field position. But that's at least a punch to the stomach for the Vikings. Their student section was throwing water in the air. They were going crazy. We'll see exactly where they spot it, but the Trojan defense will get a shot out here. Trojans, when they fell behind early last year, and they only had 2 losses, but both they fell behind early, and it was very challenging from them to respond, even against Terra Linda, a game that they won in a high-scoring affair. They were really slow in the first half and woke up in the second. And especially with a team that's not as experienced, you do not want to fall too far behind. And a Viking team that really has the experience. Kind of reverse of last year when the Vikings were young and the Trojans were old. And that's the concern. I was saying before, offensively, the Trojans have only 2 varsity catches in their wide receiver and tight end corps. Currently starting today. Hand up the middle to start 1st and 10 from the 29, as that's where the holding penalty brought it back to, and a good pickup of about 9. Trojan defensive line, like their offensive line, it's new and could cause some issues. The major storyline to mention, though, in this one, Joey Thresh, the do-it-all, outstanding quarterback for the Vikings, is not playing in this one. His backup is in instead. That's Cole Halen, the 5'9", 155-pound junior, as we've got some laundry here. That's a false start, and we're going to expect jitters on both sides. You saw it right there. So that's going to make it 2nd and 7. But with Holland in, he has only played in one game in his varsity career, so he's not as experienced, and they're losing Thresh, who stats are really video game-like from last year, even against a challenging schedule for the Vikings. They were only 3-6 last year with a young team. Thresh put up 301 passing yards per game. I think it took the Trojans 4 games probably to get to 300 passing yards. They're a running team, but tonight might have to be different with some injuries on the O-line, as we mentioned. Short pass screen. That was much better tackling by the Trojans, excuse me. Devin Ramirez with the catch, and quickly forced out by a hoist of Trojan secondary players. And they struggled last year against the Vikings. Thresh ate them up, but they won't have to worry as much. Also, Austin Rapola, who had over 1,000 yards last year and averaged 124 yards per game. He's gone from the Vikings, but they still have a lot of weapons from last year. Great tackle out wide there by the Trojans. And you can see Freitas, number 5, reaching down. They thought the ball might have come out, but a great job by the Trojans getting out wide. Freitas has great speed on defense, and he can use it too. Mariano Jaramillo also in on the tackle. So that is 4th down. Well, it might be 3rd. 3rd down. Oh, no, holding. That is why it is still 3rd down. So this one's going to come back even more. And the Vikings, after a good play on 1st down, are now going to have a 3rd and 11, and that knocks them out of field goal range, with a good kicker in Reese as well. Trojans on defense return 10 players, 5 of them starters. Derek Pomey is the man in the middle at linebacker, as we are going to see a shift off to the right here. It's going to be 3rd and 19 now. It has gotten way backed up. 2 split out to the right, 1 to the left. Holland in the gun, man to his left. Over the middle, wide open, and making the catch down at the 9.
Pass is complete from number 8, Cole Helene, to number 11.
Jack Hartman makes the tackle, but Ramirez with the tackle, and there was a wide open gap in the secondary. And that's just disappointing if you're the Trojan coaches on a 3rd and long. You have to know that they're going to shoot long. Just get 10 men back, and they did not do that on that play. Hartman, only a sophomore out there. He's the only sophomore on this entire team, but he's a talent. Backing up Powers and pressing him at quarterback, and he showed some potential at safety as well. It might have been his bad there. Give up the middle. Not a lot of room to move. Perkins picks up about 3. It's going to make it 2nd and goal from the 3-yard line. Trojans did an outstanding job last year standing up to offenses right at the goal line. Memorable in the NCS playoffs against Acalanes. Acalanes got the ball at the 1, 1st and goal, and it took 4 downs for Acalanes to get it in. It was nearly repeated later in the game. Against a good Dons team, that's where the Trojans fell in NCS in the 1st round. But the advantage in NCS, and we'll talk about this a little later, it's much weaker in Division III this year. Up the middle. The ref's taking a look, but I believe he's going to be short once again.
Montgomery runs it down to the 1-yard line where it's 3rd
Not too much creativity there. Vikings give to Gavin Lemos, who was their starting running back last year, 317 yards on the ground. They don't run the ball a lot, but if they do, they'll give it to Lemos. But as we mentioned, could be a much different attack tonight with Hallen in a quarterback. Instead of Thresh, give to Lemos again. He goes out wide. He does not get there. No, he does.
Vikings.
Oh.
It
looked like certainly he wasn't going to get in, but just a last surge effort there, and he bowled over the Trojan defender and got in. 6-0 Vikings. 6:45 left here in the first, and Montgomery will strike first to open up this 2018 season. The Red Storm celebrated a touchdown once, and now they can celebrate it for real. So Reese will come on for the extra point here, and a disappointing start for the Trojans. There's definitely some nerves out there. You got to stay positive. That's something Coach Chris has long talked about. We're having another long delay here. The refs also are going to be rusty too. Just stay advised, and that can sometimes warrant just throwing a ball downfield. Maybe you'll get a call. Reese Martin, the sophomore, was a freshman last year as a kicker, so he's got plenty of experience. Kick is up and good. So the Vikings take a 7-0 lead. The key play on 3rd and 19, a 23-yard pass wide open in the secondary after they had excellent field position after the rough Trojans start, and they were able to punch it in on 3rd and goal. Trojans did stand up tall there, and we'll see how they rebound on their second offensive possession. Maybe a little bit more confidence and the nerves will go away. So not the start last year against the Vikings. That one was probably by this time 6:45 left in the first, about 21-7. It was an electric start. But with more nerves, younger quarterbacks out there, maybe there'll be less scoring. Trojan defense really wasn't that bad, but they had their backs up against the wall to start, and they're going to need their offense to help them out. Martin to kick it away. Freitas is back again, and this time, Butt says, you can't take it. Garrett Freitas eliciting screams from the Trojan fans, but he doesn't have a huge pop in his step right now. Makes it out to the 30. He showed something.
Return, number 7, B.J. Johnson.
Johnson with the tackle. He's everywhere tonight already. Freitas did not play last week in their three-way scrimmage, it actually was, at Ellison Field against Windsor and Carrillo. He had some, not strep throat, but some illnesses with his throat that caused him not to play, and he only started practicing this week, so he could be a little rusty. In a game the Trojans, I think, need him in right now. Get him out into space. Great fake by Powers. He spits a tackle. Is there a whistle? He's still going, and they whistled it dead. Powers is going to run into the end zone, but they clearly blew whistles. Well, you saw the athleticism by Cole Powers. He is so good in the open field. If you get him in the open, similar to Freitas, it's so hard to bring down, but they whistled it dead about 5 seconds into that one. I don't know why, if there was a false start or what. I never saw a flag. He holds a 2 in the air. I don't know. It was a bizarre play there. I don't understand why they blew that dead. And the Vikings did stop when they heard the whistle, so Powers might not have been able to get away, but he is very shifty in the open field.
Trojans have it 2nd and 2 at their 35-yard line.
Oh, he might have had a knee down because they are giving him some yards. So that is the 2. It's 2nd down. So must have had a knee that got there, but you could see it. Tough to get away. Now a false start, and there are those offensive line issues. 6:26 left to go. Sun beautifully setting here over Jason Francie Field. Powers last year, 8 rushing attempts, 71 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and actually encroachment on the Vikings so that the Trojans will move the sticks. 1st and 10 now at the 40. And now you start to get moving, you get some confidence. X factor for the Trojans, we mentioned it, the receivers as they come quick to the line. Jacob Havard, he's going to be the leading receiver this year for the Trojans. He only had 1 catch last year, even though he played a lot on varsity, and that play looked broken from the start.
Petaluma runs the ball.
Uncertain who even had the football on that.
Yard,
only a yard. Might have been a sneak by Powers, but he's not someone that really runs through the tackles. You want him in the open field. 2nd and 9 from the 41. Havard with 1 catch. Daxton Hoggia was expected to be the receiver aside him, but he is out tonight with mononucleosis. They hope to have him back next week with Santa Rosa, and we are having more fun with the lines dancing, but that one looked like a false start. Logan Wagger came out of his step, or I'm sorry, Matt Salyers came out of his step dancing, and no one else was moving. So now they back it back up, 2nd and 14.
37-yard line.
Havard one catch, 14 yards. He actually had the same amount of interceptions. However, conversations with Coach Chris and others, they've seen improvements with Havard, and he's a big guy, lots of height and physical, and the Trojans will need him. Now they again go up the middle, and again through the tackles there's not much, and I don't want to start criticizing the play calling just yet, but there is not a lot of room in there right now. That likely will start to open up in the middle, more so as the game gets on and the players get tired, something that we saw the Trojans really use to their advantage multiple times with conditioning. But you think to go back with that again, B.J. Johnson with a tackle. He is everywhere for the Vikings tonight. Powers again under center, not a lot in the gun. He steps back, looks over the middle, all sorts of traffic, it's intercepted. And a great tackle there by Powers. Good job by Powers to stop that from being more issues. And guess who it is again? B.J. Johnson doing everything. And there was just traffic in the middle there, and Powers was hoping, but he was triple teamed. And you see the frustration on his face. This has not started how he wanted, now alone. Really the mainstay starting quarterback. Last year, Justin Warwick had some struggles. He came in the Annalee game that they were getting blown out on and played very, very well. And after that, it was really both got equal playing time. He's turned out playing 6 games, 20 of 40 for 425. Last year he didn't throw a pick, but he already has one now. And tight end-wise, if you're looking over the middle, that could be tricky too. We mentioned Ayers. He's now on the line. Starting tight end is Garrett Gehring. He didn't play football last year. Pressure coming on Holland. He's running for his life. And he's able to get to the sideline and actually pick up about 6. Good job there. Trojans need to do a better job on Helene, condensing around him. It was Daniel DeCarly. It was coming chasing after him, one of the captains on the Trojans. And he's been on this team since he was a sophomore. Him and Sambita have been spectacular offensive line packers and spectacular leaders on this team as well. Derek Pomey, linebacker in the middle. You can see him number 24 there at middle linebacker. 3rd on the team in tackles, now leading returner with tackles from last year. And Nick Ayers was outstanding last year as well.
Timeout Montgomery.
Timeout Montgomery. B.J. Johnson's got the, I don't know, Viking chain maybe you want to call it. Georgia calls it the dog chain. Miami's got the U. Whatever the case, he's celebrating after his interception. 2nd and 7 from the 42, 4:37 left. Montgomery leading 7-0 when we come back. 7-0, Montgomery. 2nd and 7. And the I formation here. Holland only one pass, but it was a good-looking one over the middle on 2nd and 19. Give to Johnson, who's done celebrating, but there's nowhere to go. Excuse me. Good tackle up the middle by Logan Waggers. Trojans will be shuffling in more defensive line with more new players out there. They're not going to be used to that intensity out there. Sambita had an impact on that tackle as well. Varsity baseball player, very athletic and a good leader, as we mentioned. In the secondary for the Trojans, Havard will be back there using his 6'2", 155-pound size. John Candow also back there as well. They'll be rotating players out, but Freitas and Max Shattuck are the captains in the secondary. The 2 cornerbacks. Hallen rolls out. He's getting chased after by Sambita. He looks downfield, and is it made? No, incomplete. A diving attempt there. Holland really made a nice throw on the run. Getting chased by, actually, that was Kenny Alexander who was chasing after him. And he's not a man that you want chasing after you if you're Holland, as we are probably going to get the Vikings to go for it here on 4th down. 6'4", 240 pounds, Kenny Alexander, also a basketball player, but he's never played football before. But he got free there, and you can see him in the middle. He towers over everyone. Sometimes you just need a little brute strength and a size advantage. Holland got, though, his throw on, and I think it was bobbled and broken up. It was a little hard to see on the other side of the field, and also not a great angle. Holland pump fakes, and now he throws downfield, incomplete. He fooled me with an excellent pump fake, trying to stop the quarterbacks, and Johnson, who's just everywhere, nearly hailed it in. Good job, though, by Freitas, who you could see clapping back there, along with Gianni Johnson, the junior, making his varsity debut. Able to break that up, but boy, B.J. Johnson, he is looking scary tonight. And the Trojans were double teaming him. They're going to need to. So the Trojans will take over on 4th down. They'll have good field position to start from the 41. And it feels like after kind of a disastrous start, everything has calmed down a little bit. Havard split out wide. Connor Pedersen to the other side. Oh, and that is broken from the start. A missed gap there, and Powers just had to go down and take the defeat. Tackle made by Ray Rodriguez, junior defensive lineman for the Vikings. And those issues, I mean, they're going to happen, and you have to accept them and move on. Be interested to see, though, if we see more screens here to Freitas, to Havard. Trojans have a couple other players, Gianni Johnson, who we mentioned as well, John Candow. Those are sprinters in track. They got some speed. Maybe get them in the open field, because right now the Trojans are not winning this offensive line battle. And their ball is out. And the Vikings have recovered the football.
Number 64, Clayton Franklin. Number 74, Gavin Howes.
Clayton Franklin.
Excuse me, there's a fumble on the play.
Recovers the football. And again, it just kind of popped out there. I had a lot of anticlimactic plays already in this one. It was Joe Yaliodio,
Montgomery gets the ball right back.
who again making his varsity debut. Another player out there, and he lost the football. 5'8", 140-pound junior, 144 yards on JV last year. He was 3rd in rushing on the team. And one of those was a quarterback, only behind Luis Lozano, who we haven't seen at all, and he played well in the scrimmage. There's been some excitement around him. He was called up before the LC Allen game senior night last year. Holland is getting chased again on the move, tries to make a throw, and again was looking for Johnson, but that one had no shot. Second down, we also have a flag, probably holding here. Be interesting to see what Coach Chris decides. Back them up a little bit more. Both teams have been stuck here at this 40-yard line for about 2:26 left to go in this first quarter. Trojans finished the season last year 8-2, 4-1 in FCL, including starting it off 4-0 before their loss to Annalee. It will be holding, and they're going to take the penalty, so it'll be 1st and 20 now. And the Vikings, for the first time all night, will have to take a snap from their own territory, from their own 49.
Vikings are backed up to their 49-yard line.
Trojan started 4-0, and it's a very similar schedule as last year. Beat the Vikings in a thriller, blew out Santa Rosa, who they'll play next week, back up here in Santa Rosa. And then maybe the game of the year against Terra Linda, back and forth. They came behind from 17 points and somehow pulled out a victory in that one. 58-52 is the final in that one. And then, of course, the victory over Casa Grande in the Egg Bowl, very memorable, 2014, before they were blown out by Annalee. But it looks like, and now they're bringing the football back. Well, this is the refs with some issues as well. Is there another penalty? Now they're bringing it 5 more yards back. And an explanation being given to the Vikings' second-year head coach, Tony Kiefer. former Santa Rosa junior college football player. Took over a young football team last year, and they started really well as well. After their loss to the Trojans, 3 straight wins, including a nice victory over Windsor. Broken tackle. Johnson lost the football. Trojans have recovered it. I believe there's a scrum. It was definitely in a Trojan hand at first. It is Trojan football. They gave it to Johnson in the open field. He is shifty. Lost the ball. But a great punch out by someone in the white jersey to punch it out, and it flew right in to gladly awaiting Trojan hands, and the Trojans are going to take over on the Vikings side of the field for their 3rd offensive possession and forcing turnovers. That is going to be a huge help to this offense right now that so far has looked sluggish and unadventurous, to be honest with you. Havard is the one-man split out wide. 2:16 left in the first quarter. And again, there's just disaster on the offensive line there. The defense is fired up for the Vikings. They've done a great job. Derek Pomey with the carry, and he's expected to be a bigger impact on the fullback position. It was so stacked last year with running backs, but most of those seniors are gone except for Freitas. Colton Prieto, really the only other one that even had a few carries last year.
7 tickets for $5? 7 tickets for $5.
Pomey only 4 carries, 20 yards last year. But if there's no room for the offensive line, the Trojans could have to look elsewhere. Powers only 1 pass attempt so far, and it was intercepted. They'll toss out wide. And again, nowhere to go.
Matt Carr, number 55, tackles the ball carrier, number 13 on a pitch out.
That was Connor Pedersen.
That's another 1-yard loss.
The Trojans trying to get it to another shifty player, mix it up. Freitas was behind him, so you would assume that they would give to Freitas. But the Vikings were not fooled. They have watched film, and they have ready right now for the couple triple option plays. But we've seen a little bit more conventional, just dual threat play from Cole Powers in this Trojan offense. 3rd and 12 at the 49. Freitas is dotting the I. They fake. Powers loves to run and throw, and that was a hard-laid hit. We're going to have a penalty here, and I believe the Trojans are going to get an automatic first down there. It's a hit to the helmet, I think. Incomplete, but a better-looking throw from Powers. There's still a lot of traffic in there, though, and it makes you nervous if you're a Trojan fan throwing one in there. We'll await the ruling. If it's unnecessary roughness, that's going to be an automatic first. If it's just pass interference, then it would just be a 10-yard gain, and the Trojans would have a shorter 3rd down. That looks like the case. The refs have had to talk for about 5 minutes about every call, so it's going to be a long one. Sun disappearing as the fog coming in. Beautiful hills behind, unfortunately singed by the fires last October that created such an effect on the football season as well. The foul is on the Vikings. And it will be an automatic first down, it looks like, all the way down to the 35. You know, you got to take freebies when you can have them, and the Trojans were gifted one there. You can see Trojan student section, cheerleaders primarily, and some other students have made their way up in their white and purple, including the new white T-shirts that were given out to all 1,300 students this Friday morning, courtesy of ASB. They even give out water. They gave out water bottles as well. Jordan Zajon, senior class president, Simone Smith, ASB president, doing a wonderful job, and we have more movement. And I believe that time it was on Montgomery. Too much excitement, and I think the Trojans have got more yardage on Monty penalties right now than on actually moving the football. They'll go to the 31, 1st and 5. 46 seconds left here in the first quarter. A low-scoring affair. Trojans open up their home schedule against Terra Linda instead of being on the road. It's flip-flop from last year. That's 2 weeks from now. And then homecoming against El Molino. That is their non-conference schedule. And they can certainly win every game. Oh, what a creative give up to Freitas. He breaks the tackle. Freitas at the 10, only needs to be Johnson. He's whipped down. The ball came out. I think he was down. He was down. He was. Johnson laid a nasty tackle on him. Kind of grabbed him by the shoulder pads and just threw him down. Freitas lost the ball when he hit the ground. Nonetheless, that was the play calling. That was the design. That was the practice that pays off there. The fake to Prieto up the middle, and the Vikings were finally fooled, and Freitas was sprinting by confused. Monty defenders, now they get at the 5, and a chance before the end of this first quarter to somehow tie this ball game up. They're going to rush quick to the line. Pomey behind him goes up the middle, but he's not going to get there. 2 more yards. Clock will keep ticking, and I do not think we're having another stop, and this is also not good. Powers is limping a little bit, favoring that left legs, but he'll get a chance to rest it, and hopefully he's all right. It's been a physical one so far. Offensive line and defensive lines
Montgomery Vikings 7,
have both kind of dominated each other. It was Trojan miscues early that really put them behind 7-0, but with a couple penalties and a great toss to Freitas, who went for 25 yards, the Trojans are looking to punch it in and tie this game as we head to the second quarter here in the season opener from Montgomery High School. It was a long walk for the Trojans. Good 98 yards to the other side of the field. And now they're going to go quick to the line. Powers under center. All 10 men up there. Powers took it himself and surged forward, and there was maybe a yard.
Quarterback keeper. No.
Third and goal, and only at the 4. Yeah, just 1 yard picked up on these last 2 plays. And it's just so different this year. The offensive line has been so good for the Trojans. The last 2 years are different this year, but you still have Nick Sabita, Daniel DeCarlo. You want to run behind your senior experienced linemen. See if you can get it. Cold Prieto in the backfield here. He's a power runner. They fake. They throw instead to Freitas, and he is headed the wrong way.
Pass is complete.
Tried to get creative, and it turned out disastrously. He's back at about the 8, I think. Devin Ramirez with the tackle, and this is going to bring out the kicking crew. That was very disappointing for the Trojans there. After Freitas' great run really looked like he was going to head on in, B.J. Johnson wrestled him to the ground, and instead the Trojans are going to have to bring out an unexperienced kicker now to attempt the kick, or are they going for it? I think they're going for it. It would be a 26. No, they're going for the kick. Raiden Cristobal has only kicked 1 field goal in his entire high school football career. He's number 2, and it is. That was close to the right post. It's no good.
And the kick is wide right.
Unbelievable.
Vikings will take over on downs at their 5.
I don't know if you saw it, but it was right up by that right post, and it sailed right. He pushed it. Conversation there at the line from Logan Waggers to the ref, but man, you get inside your 5-yard line and you do not score. There's not a whole lot worse than that. 10:20 left in the second quarter, and still 7-0 Monty. And the Trojans got so many gifts on that drive. They got about 25 yards in penalties. 1 big play, but you brought out Cristobal, who Monty will take over at the 20, which is the high school rule. But Daxton Hoggia, we mentioned, he's the very reliable kicker for the Trojans. Only missed 2 PATs last year, but he's out with mono. And Cristobal kicked a couple times for the JV team last year. B.J. Johnson is doing his thing again, all the way out to the 44, and a 15-yard pickup for the Vikings. Johnson
Brought down
coming
by
up
number 13,
limping.
Petaluma, Connor Peterson.
But the screens are really dangerous with Johnson in the open field. And really, he and Freitas are the two stars, and Johnson has topped him so far. Connor Pedersen, the excellent cornerback, makes a nice tackle. He returns onto the senior roster. This defense needs to pick up the Trojans again. Offense got into a little of a rhythm, and then it stalled, and to say the end of the quarter wasn't good. We've got another screen here. The Trojans are forced to make tackles. There is a flag. This is coming back all the way down to the 25, though, and the Trojans are not doing a good job wrapping up right now. This holding will bring the ball back to about the 35.
Cole Helene to number 18, Kai Johnson.
But Helene's not that comfortable throwing the ball downfield. You would expect the junior quarterback with only garbage time playing in his career to be comfortable. But right now, the Trojans cornerbacks, even though some of them more experienced, struggling to wrap up right now, especially against some very athletic wide receivers on the Vikings. Helene, 5'9", 155. As there is the hold being indicated. They're going to be back at the 38. First and 15.
At their 39-yard line.
Helene last year, 6 of 12, 85 yards, and it was only in one game, and it was against Rancho Cotati last year when they lost 63-0 against one of the best Cougar teams we've ever seen right here on the Montgomery field, and they have an excellent chance to do something special this year, potentially win league to the Vikings. They are in the lower NBL division, obviously with realignment. We've talked a lot about this on this broadcast last year and the effects on the Trojans, but for the Vikings, they could have been placed in the Oak League, the higher league, instead of the Redwood, as Johnson takes it up the middle, and he picks up about 5 to get back to the original sticks. 2nd and 10.
Vikings run and handoff to Cameron Perkins.
That was actually to Cameron Perkins, my bad. And a late flag. I'm pretty sure that is on Monty. They've made some very poor mistakes tonight. We had the unnecessary roughness on the helmet-to-helmet hit, and that one must have been saying something. And that's 15 yards, unsportsmanlike conduct. So that backs them way back up. And the Trojans haven't really played well, but Montgomery's deconstructed.
The Vikings back at their 31-yard line.
They're going to be competing, though, for the NBL Redwood League title, probably with Santa Rosa, Piner, and El Molino are going to be the ones challenging for that. You got Healdsburg and LC Allen also in the league. But they could have been placed like Maria Carrillo, their rival, in the Oak. And to be honest, I don't think Carrillo's winning a league game all year long. It's just not going to happen. With Newman, Cotati, Ukiah, Windsor. That is a brutal league. And it's an interesting construction. It'd be interesting to see how it works with the NBL, with the Oak and Redwood, a higher and lower league. Here's another screen. It's bobbled. If that was backwards, that could have been disaster, but a great job. Kenny Alexander wrestling down Andre Williams, going backwards. How about Alexander tonight? Already a pressure on the quarterback, and now a tackle.
No gain on the play.
A player who has never played football before, but he's had a spotlight on him. He was at Cardinal Newman for 2 years in basketball, transferred to Petaluma to get more playing time, and it has worked out for him. So 3rd and 25, and the Trojans need to not make the same mistake they did on a 3rd and 19 before. The only time that we've seen Montgomery look downfield. Holland hasn't shown his arm, but he's going to have to do it here. He will. He's got a man, and a great play by Havard. No flags either. The Monty fans want to pass interference.
Pass broken up by number 7, Jacob Harvard for Petaluma. It's going to bring up 4th down.
We mentioned Havard's necessity to be a good wide receiver, but he was excellent last year in the secondary, or at the linebacker position for the Trojans. 8 tackles, a sack, he had an interception against Annalee that kept them in that one. And a tackle for loss as well. So the first punt, bizarrely, of the game for Montgomery. This has been a odd game, I would say, to start, but you kind of expected first game of the season. Last year was really an anomaly, I think, with that thriller. This ball is bouncing. It did hit a Trojan. Oh, no. I think they have recovered it. And they do. Well, when that ball is bouncing and you're trying to block there, you have to have knowledge of where it is. And normally that responsibility falls to the punt returner. So Freitas should have been yelling there at number 21 as the 50-50 raffle is continuing to be advertised.
Lucky winner gives half the pot, and the other half goes to support the Montgomery cheer. Thank you.
Rain and Cristobal. A lot of new faces out there and a lot of new numbers, so it's going to take some time to get all of them. But there was miscommunication there between Freitas and Cristobal on where the ball was, and the Trojans nearly have disaster strike. Instead, Cole Powers heads back out again. The defense is keeping them in it, but maybe more of the Montgomery penalties are keeping them in it. Powers looks, quick slant, incomplete.
Pass is incomplete.
Like that play call, though, trying something downfield, and it was really just miscommunication there between Freitas, who'd line up in the slot. Interesting position. I don't know how much they trust Garrett Gehring at the tight end position. He's starting there. Plumtree is a backup. Justin Plumtree coming up from JV. He has more experience than him, but he's a little bit small for that tight end position. Something that Coach Chris loves to use, especially as a blocker in the triple option, but we have just not seen a lot of the triple at all tonight. And Powers has only run it once, and it was nearly a big gain. This is up the middle. About a 5-yard pickup to the 35-yard line. That's going to set up about a 3rd yard and 5.
For Petaluma. 55, Matt Carr in on the tackle.
I think both teams, as Matt Carr, the leading tackler for the Vikings last year, makes the tackle, I think both teams have to hope that the defensive line will get worn down, because really both defensive lines have dominated. And credit to the Trojans' defensive line, which is really as young as their O-line, that they've been able to stand up, but there just has not been a lot of traction in pushing backwards, contrary to last year when the O-lines dominated. Oh, Powers is killed. Oh, gosh. He has taken some rough hits. And he was really lucky that that ball did not come out. That takes amazing strength in his right hand. Clayton Franklin burst through a hole. And another offensive line breakdown. And he was put on his back before I think he knew what was happening. Defense might win championships, but the battle at the lines wins games. And we've seen that so far tonight. 6 minutes left here in the second quarter. It is turning to dusk, and the smoke drifting over Jason Francie Field from the barbecue that's been ongoing. It was a lovely August Friday night. The season actually starting 1 week earlier than last year. They moved up all the league schedules, trying to get football done before the holidays. So we're seeing a lot of movements before Nick Ayers is going to have his second punt. Now, he thought about going, and then he finally made the decision to go. Goes outside. There's nowhere to go. Oh, he got away for a minute there. You got to wrap up if you're the Trojans. Have to wrap up.
Back to the Viking 45-yard line. Number 52, Jacob Jaramillo. And 88,
Jaramillo and Johnson, who's had a good first game, on the tackle of the Monty kick return. About a net gain of 30 yards on the punt. Holland and the Vikings will start at the 40 with 5:31 left. The other reason for moving the schedule forward by a week, they wanted baseball and softball to have their state championship. So for the first time this year, CIF will hold baseball and softball state championships. The season was just going too late for that before. B.J. Johnson in the backfield, and that is to watch out for up the middle, nowhere to go. Great traction by the defensive line once again. And I mean, let's be honest here, it's really just easier to play defensive line. It's easier to go through people than try to stop people. It's just physics there. Alexander was again in on the action. Salyers was. They've been rotating some people, so no one's gotten too tired on the defensive line. And again, they'll have to hope that on the O-line. 2nd and 9 from the 46. Trojans have forced a fumble so far tonight. Stopped them on 4th down. It was the first drive from the 30 that they scored. Johnson has got out wide. He's just shifting over players. He really very similar to Garrett Freitas in the way that he runs and gets in the open field. And it has to cause excitement for the Montgomery fans, but it's going to bring up a 3rd down and 4 as they were finally able to send him down. The Red Storm has been standing all game. Credit to them. This hasn't been the most exciting up and down game so far. It's been a defensive struggle. This one feels like a close game, and it might come down to who holds their composure best. Because right now, Montgomery has not done a good job of that. It's been costly. Up the middle, and he got a second surge there. That is going to be very close. I saw it looked like a signal to move the chains.
Vikings run it up the middle.
They will. Right at the first down marker.
9, Cameron Perkins.
Perkins with the carry. We've seen him with a couple carries as
first
well.
down.
He just got it.
1st and 10 for
Move the chains to the
Montgomery
44.
44-yard line.
More excitement. First down.
Mentioned some of the standouts returning for the Trojans on the defensive line. Daniel DeCarly, 6'3", 215. Him and Sambita, the only 3-year varsity players. 2 tackles for him. Sambita had 8. Here's another screen. Watch out. Down to the 32 he goes.
Hand off to number 4 around the end, Andre Williams.
That's Williams.
Pick up.
Williams and Johnson both a very similar gait.
Another Vikings first down. It'll be 1st and 10 at the Trojan 30.
Get them out in the open field, and they look like gazelles. And it is scary for the Trojan secondary that had a lot of issues last year. Missed tackles, open wide receivers. And luckily for them, Thresh isn't out there because it just feels like if he was out there, he might be just torturing a secondary that's never been a strong suit of Trojan teams. Breaking tackles as Johnson still going and diving. He's down at the 10. His knee came down before that, but Perkins,
looks like he stepped out of
for the
bounds
first
at
time
about the
tonight,
10-yard
breaks a
line.
tackle, and he
10-yard
found
line.
some room
Another
down
Vikings first down.
a right side. And late in the second half, Montgomery has a chance to get a huge momentum-swinging touchdown. This game has just felt even since that one score for the Vikings.
First and goal at the 10-yard line.
1st and goal from the 10. Trojans did a good job standing up last time to the Vikings. They like to do that again. Coach Christ also has 2 timeouts for his offense to use. Up the middle to Williams again. And not a lot there to go. Between the tackles, it's not working for either team, but when the Vikings have gone out wide, we've seen tackling issues by the linebackers in the secondary.
Down to the 5-yard line. 2nd and goal at the 5.
Vikings will continue their Petaluma potpourri of games as they take on Casa Grande next week. And the Trojans will continue their Santa Rosa tour against the Panthers back up here next week. We'll be missing out on that rivalry game, unfortunately. But it's a very young Santa Rosa team that's been through some struggles. They actually, though, beat Montgomery last year in an odd twist of fate. Up the middle, a hard-hit ball is out. Diving. We heard a whistle before, though. I think his knee was down. The ball was just rolling, and I don't think anyone noticed it. They were too busy at the pile. However, there was no fumble because the knee was down at the 3. A hard hit at first by, I think, Derek Povey, who came up out of the linebacker position and caused the ball to pop out, but not after the knee was down.
False start on the offense.
Never mind. That was not the whistle. He was never down. It was a false start. And instead, that moves him 5 yards back and makes this more challenging for the Vikings.
So 2nd and goal at the 10-yard line after the false start.
When you know what play's coming and it just seems like a run, I think it's just harder for the defense. 2:25 left in this second quarter. You see a lot more no huddle these days in every game, but both of these teams have huddled, mostly taken their time. Williams, 5'9", 165-pound senior. However, this time it's Michaela Ratu behind him. He takes a shot at the end zone, and it is intercepted. Spectacular play. Garrett Freitas. One-handed basket catch. A horrible decision by Cole Hallen. He threw it up, and it was a jump ball. Freitas got position as if boxing out the wide receiver, and the Trojans will get the ball at the 20.
Number 5, Garrett Freitas for the Trojans.
Just like you want to close out quarters at halves in basketball, same thing in football before you head to the locker room. And right now, that one is the Trojans can pull this one out, is one you have to remember. A huge play by Freitas. He's so athletic. He actually played varsity basketball, started the year, and decided, I just want to focus on football more. And so he stopped playing basketball for varsity basketball. He was a fun player to watch, too, out on the open court. And he also played varsity lacrosse, which I think really conditions him for that. And that time, he's not going anywhere.
Handoff.
Number 57, Joe Martinez, 6'1", 22. Linebacker was causing issues again and missed assignment after missed assignment at the O-line, and the Trojans are not hurrying up here. There's 1:30 left in the second, and the way that the offenses have played, if you're Coach Christ and with a young team, I think you're more worried right now about mistakes. And you maybe give Cole Powers a shot and trust your senior quarterback. But you don't do anything too special. That's what they're going to do. Now he's under pressure, a low throw, incomplete.
Pass is incomplete on second down.
Was looking for Derek Pomey, who came out of the backfield, but again under pressure. That does stop the clock, however, which is why you might question that decision. 2 turnovers forced by the Trojan defense tonight. That has been a huge play. 2 huge plays for them last year. 15 interceptions, 9 recovered fumbles. They were good at it last year, and they've done it once again here. However, the difference might be Trojans got down to the Monty 4 and could not score, and they still have a goose egg on the board. Powers with a late toss. What a play. And he think he got the first. A late tackle, too, on the sideline as players went down.
Number 13, Connor Peterson on the carry.
Pedersen, excuse me. Showing his athleticism. He's very small and shifty. He's one of the best wrestlers in Sonoma County. Finished 3rd last year in all of NCS at the 145-pound weight mark. Team leader vocally, and Powers nearly going down, able to flip it off to Pedersen. He did go out of bounds, so it stopped the clock. And not exactly sure if they're signaling a first. Coach Christ is walking out. We must have a timeout here. That's the only thing I can concur.
Ball carrier runs out of bounds, stopping the clock with a minute left.
Timeout Trojans, so they use one of their remaining 2.
It could be about 4th and 1.
It's going to be 4th and 1. Looks like based on the spot, so he did not get there. Good job by Montgomery, forcing him out as well to stop the clock. That's an unfortunate mistake as well by Pedersen, and I'd assume you have to punt the football away. Only 1 minute left, and with Montgomery hasn't been able to show downfield threats, it feels like you just got to get Nick Ayers and give it to them at the 50 and trust that your defense, which has played well, will stop the Vikings. You head to the locker room, a 1-possession game. Oh, the sunset. Lovely tonight. That's what high school football is all about. Let's take a look at that side as the fog comes in. Trojans in white, Monty in red. 1 minute left. And lo and behold, Coach Christ is rolling the dice here, right in the riverboat, as they like to say. Maybe they're just trying to draw him off sides. Oh, I had great thoughts in that Coach Chris was going to take the biggest gamble of his coaching career, but
Timeout, Petaluma.
he was just intending a simple trying to draw Monty off sides, who'd been drawn off sides twice already. It didn't happen. Coach Chris is not happy at something. He's walked to the refs and is having a conversation with them. There's been a lot of flags, a lot of long conversations. Trojans use their final timeout. Again, Montgomery with 2, and I now expect we'll see a punt. After the game, stay tuned. We will have interviews right here, and I believe that the Trojan cheerleader team is also going to have a performance, so we'll bring that to you as well. Other sports going on. The varsity volleyball team started off their season last night in the Trojan gym, and it didn't go too great, but against one of the better teams in Sonoma County, in the Santa Rosa Panthers, 3-0. The Trojans hung around for the first set and couldn't keep it going. Blown out in the second 2 sets, but it's a team that will compete, I think, still for a league pennant, and they've scheduled a very tough non-conference this year. Coach Ryan Hughes, though, doing a great job. I have to give him some credit. Ayers to kick it away. Now, the biggest thing here is to make a tackle. Ayers bobbled it, but he sends a booming one away. That is a terrific punt, going out of bounds all the way at the 30. And then a late flag is thrown. That's got to be something after the whistle. And I think it's on Montgomery again. They have been undisciplined tonight. But Nick Ayers, 625 yards last year on 18 punts. Average 34, as long was 53. That one might top it. Then you're going to get the penalty, and now for the Vikings, you're almost certainly going to take a knee here. You're just too backed up. So that was exactly what the Trojans would have wanted to happen on that sequence. And as much as their offense has struggled, Cole Powers hasn't completed a pass.
First and 10 for the
Garrett
Vikings
Freitas has only gotten loose once, and
11-yard line.
Powers
54
has about
seconds
4
left
yards
in
in
the first
rushing.
half.
If you told me that,
Got a nail biter
I'd
here,
say the
folks.
Trojans would be trailing 28-0. But it's only 7-0. And they haven't gone 2 down. They stayed mentally strong, and that is a huge shine. The mental game's so important. The Vikings are all the way back at their 10-yard line. The Trojan cheerleaders are making their way around. They got good numbers as well. Dusk has settled. Now there's 2 split out to the right. Oh, that looked to be a disaster, and instead up the middle, a seam for Johnson, and he picks up the first down. Hartman in there with the tackle. Nice job by the Trojan sophomore safety. I'm sorry, that's Perkins. Perkins and Johnson. As I mentioned, they look very similar out there, the way they run. So they do pick up the first down, but the clock's continuing to run, and they don't look to be in too much of a hurry. You would presume head coach Tony Kiefer is letting them run down the clock, down to 30 seconds. There's time here for Holland. Oh, that was not smart at all. He threw it to one red jersey surrounded by 4. Kai Johnson was the one Viking in the area, but I could spend the whole night looking over my spreadsheet trying to get every single number that was there. Even Logan Wackers, the defensive lineman, had somehow gotten back there. But that's what you call sitting back on your defense, something that has probably cost the Trojans 7 points. Vikings had 3rd and 19 on that first possession and were able to convert it and then scored later. 24 seconds left. It's out wide, breaking a tackle and causing every Trojan fan, on the other side of this field, their heart to skip a beat. But he's brought down inbounds, and that is going to do it. That's not how you draw it up, I think, for either team. And to be honest, I can't imagine Tony Kiefer or head coach Rich Chris is going to be super happy with their team. But there's a second half, a chance for redemption for both. Can the Trojan offense get going? That is going to be the key. It's been a rough start to Cole Powers' senior year, and Garrett Freitas has looked sleepy. The O-line, though, for the Trojans has been giving them no favors at all, but the defense, it's keeping them in this ballgame. We'll get the cheerleaders' performance, and then the second half coming up next. We got a nail-biter here in Santa Rosa. It's the Montgomery Vikings 7, the Petaluma Trojans nothing. Well, that first half wasn't pretty by any figment of the imagination, but it is a close one, 7-0, and very interesting what just happened here at halftime. Montgomery came out of the locker room about 5 minutes ago, and just a moment ago, the Trojans finally came back onto the field. A very, very long time in the locker room, so much that they actually extended the time of halftime by 3 minutes. Don't know exact rules on that, but they allowed them to do that. Coach Chris had an earful for the Trojans, and it wasn't that they played undisciplined, but it was just overall sloppy play by the Trojans,
Vikings.
and offensively, they just looked out of sorts and tentative for the vast majority, you felt, of that first half, but you got to give credit to the defense for what they did. Second half coming up next. Perkins and Milos back for the Vikings. Raiden Cristobal, who missed a field goal from only 25 yards away, will kick it off. And he does have some good lineage in his family, which is somewhat, I think, why he's got more playing time. That takes a spectacular hops, and it rolls all the way back to the 5-yard line where it'll be picked up. Makes one man miss, but this is going to be excellent opportunity for the Trojan defense. All the way back at about the 10, I think they're going to spot it. It took a huge hop at about the 40, right over a bunch of Viking players' heads, and they could not get it until it was settled down. They are going to spot it right at the 10, so great opportunity for the Trojan defense, and in a game that has a lot of very vital with field position in this low-scoring game, special teams can make a difference, and Cristobal made a huge difference there. Cristobal's older brother, if you've been following Petaluma football, Dominic Cristobal, one of the legends, as breaking a tackle and all the way out to the 30, and just like that, the bad field position is gone for the Vikings. Handoff, slant left.
Handoff to number 21, Gavin Lemos.
And Lemos, who we haven't seen a lot, he was the leading running back last year. Now a senior.
19-yard run gives the Vikings
provides
first and 10 at their 29.
a big outlet there for the Trojan, or for the Vikings, excuse me. And maybe that's a little bit of a change that Tony Kiefer has cooked up in the locker room for the Vikings. First and 10 from the 29. Trojans were a second-half team a lot of last year. That has to give you hope, but remember, there's so many new players, more broken tackles.
Hand off to number 24,
Lemos,
Javon Hurd.
or I'm sorry, that's Javon Hurd this time. So they got a whole new crop of running backs out there. You want to get those fresh legs in, and those defensive backs are going to get more tired, but they just had their long rest in the locker room, but they moved the sticks again. Another first down out to the 44. Difference here, though, slants out wide instead of right down the middle. You got DeCarly and Sembita lurking in there, and they're hard to mess with that time. The Trojans were right on it. Outstanding defensive play by number 70
Cameron Perkins
of the Trojans,
for a loss by number 70,
Matt Salyers. And Salyers,
Matthew Salyers.
he has a chance to be really good both on the O-line and D-line, and he's, as almost everyone on the O-line tonight has made a mistake for the Trojans. He has, but he was called up for NCS, actually got an opportunity to play some snaps against Acalanes. He's got some talent. He was really good on JV last year. He's someone that could be a captain next year, really provide a spark on that O-line. There's a break and tackle. He cuts back. He's got the sideline to beat, and he won't beat the sideline. Havard forces him out. But Perkins, we saw with a couple runs, finds some room. And when they are not going between the tackles, the cornerbacks in the secondary are having issues right now. And this cannot please Coach Chris and especially the defensive coordinators to see a rough start by the Trojan defense, and really the best kind of consistent ball movement we've seen from any team all game. A long field, and they've already marched at 60 yards. Cutting back for a 2-yard gain is Lemos.
21, Gavin Lemos, pick up a couple yards.
You've got to wrap up. You've got to tackle. And you can't go for the big hit if you're the Trojans. There were some missed tackles last year, but it was something that if you were watching the scrimmage last week, which I was out at, and it was more with the backups, but even with some of the starters against good Windsor and Maria Crea team, especially in the secondary, there were a lot of missed tackles, a couple touchdowns that never should have happened. Well, that looked like miscommunication there, and they actually get back to the original line of scrimmage there. So
Gavin
lucky
Lemos,
for
number
the
21
Vikings, and
on the
that will
carry.
bring up a third down. Lemos got it, but Holland
3rd and 5
looked confused. He was gestured he tried to hand the ball off the other way, and there was no one there.
at the Petaluma 30
Good job, though, by the senior back Lemos, kind of staying cool there. This is a big down 3rd and 5. Monty's built some momentum, but you're too far out for a field goal unless they really trust the right leg of Reese. But a field goal could be the difference in this one. I form. And it should have been intercepted. A horrible decision by Holland. He was nearly standing sideways when he threw the pass.
Is incomplete. It's going to bring up 4th down for Montgomery.
And a great job by the Trojan secondary. They were reading that kind of wobbling duck. Havard was in the area, but it was... I'm trying to get the number on that for you. It was number 9, John Candow, who we've seen have some good plays in the secondary already. He was on varsity last year, but he never got to play. He's had all sorts of issues with his knees, and it's just good to see him healthy, and he nearly had a pick there. Another quick throw out wide, and this time it is! No, Candow can't pull it in. Oh, my goodness. He read it again, read it like a book, and this time he had it 2 hands on his number, and he couldn't haul it in. It will be a turnover on downs, so it doesn't make that big of a difference in the end. What a play, though, by Candow. He has to be crushed. He couldn't hold on. He might have got a couple extra yards if he'd hauled it in. Not as big of a deal, I guess. But great job there. Candow single-handedly on those last 2 plays, helping give the football right back to the Trojans after Monty looked to get into a rhythm. 8:53 left in the 3rd. The give is up the middle. We've seen a lot more of these little kind of tosses from Powers to the fullback, but they haven't been effective at all.
Trojans run it on 1st down, get a gain of
And we
3.
mentioned it early. You hope that you can wear them down because they're clearly not working. They're not working now. You got 2-3 yards, but you hope in the 4th quarter, can 2-3 yards turn into 6-7 yards? Grind it down their throat. And you saw it for half of that last possession for Monty. They were finding some seams. Trojans looked a little tired. Now it's Pomey in the backfield, and Powers under center again. We have seen very little of the triple tonight. Pomey, a good carry there. Out to the 39. It's going to bring up a reasonable 3rd down and short. Better job by the offensive line, at least in the first 3 snaps. You know that had to be a conversation.
Number 24,
It's a young team. It's a young O-line. It's unexperienced, and we've gone through it, but you have to at least try to protect your quarterback and your running backs from getting killed, and you know Powers already is going to be very sore waking up tomorrow morning. Again, Pomey in the backfield, but this time a diamond form. We saw that a lot last year. Havard is split out wide to the right. Shattuck to the other end, and this time it's the toss to Freitas. Freitas has got room at the 50. Freitas!
About a 65-yard run.
What a spectacular play. Freitas took it on the toss, and he was gone. Cristobal's going to come on for the extra point, though. This is no gimme. He missed the field goal from about 5 yards longer. Freitas did not have a good first half. Gone to the open field once and scored. But that time, as soon as they tossed it to him and he was by that defensive line, you could hear the groan in the Monty crowd. He had picked up speed. There was not a lot of room in the secondary. You knew that it was just going to be a foot race, and Freitas nearly always wins that. A beautiful cutback, though, at the end. Johnson in the secondary was chasing after him. Cristobal to kick it away. Powers will hold it for him. Good hands. That one looks a lot better by Cristobal. He's made up for that one.
The kick is good.
Got a big high five from Powers. We have a tie game. Well,
7:17 left in the third quarter.
it took nearly 30 minutes for the Trojans to get on the board, but when they do, they tie this one up. A spectacular 60-yard run on third down from Garrett Freitas, doing his thing. B.J. Johnson already with a big game, but he's gone quiet, and Freitas, the other star, answering him. 7:17 left to go in the third. The sideline is pumped up for the Trojans. We'll see if the offense can really get into a rhythm. But Monty also, we saw some rhythm from them in their first possession. So we'll see how both sides tune out. Maybe it could get a little bit more offense in the second half. 7-7 the score. This game felt like either the Trojans are going to come out and get blown out in the second half, or they're going to keep it close, and you feel like you're confident that they can will them down. This is another squibber. Monty's having trouble. He's touched the ball, and now he's going backwards. Oh, it's a delightful treat for the Trojans special teams. Brought down at the 20, and Cristobal's little squibbers are causing a headache. Lemos finally fell on it. A whole hoist of white jerseys was back there, though, for the Trojans to help him bring him down. And a poppable hush has fallen over Jason Francie Field here in central Santa Rosa. John Candow, again, he's in on the tackle. It's been a long time for him since he's been on a football field, and really good player sophomore and freshman year. He has made an impact in his first varsity game. We're seeing some cramps, too, as well on the Monty sideline. They might be getting worn down. This is a game where you're going to get worn down. First game of the year. It's been physical. Oh, they're looking to gut it out, and he's got a man. Could not hold on. What a play. Cristobal, echoes of his brother. Raiden Cristobal was on JV last year, but he has not got the playing time of a JV player tonight. He has been one of the more influential players on the field and nearly had the Viking receiver by him, but he was able to get a hand on it. And a dime throw, and really a good downfield throw, the best one we've probably seen by the Monty quarterback. Second down. This is a quick slant out wide and quickly brought down.
Pass complete from number 8, Cole Helene.
Helene with his best pass of the day. They're trying to go with the screens, which worked in the first half. But Perkins is brought down quickly. And right now, the Trojan defense, they're flying around. When you've worked so hard to limit the scoring and you finally get something, it is big. We're seeing another limping Monty player. They are getting tired. There's one limping player, and then there's another player who is lying on his back. That is not a good sign. 6:50 left to go. We're tied at 7 here in the third quarter. First Friday Night Lights game of the year. Andre Duval, wide receiver senior, limping off. We saw another player on the Vikings who was getting stretched out with cramps. There's the athletic trainer for Monty. They are getting their work cut out for them. And the wearing down has happened. And look at the Trojan students. Oh, well, they've started to calm down. They were hopping like it was the start of the fourth quarter in Madison. They were jumping. All the momentum on the Trojan side. There it out again. He's got a man. And Cristobal again. Spectacular stuff. Rating Cristobal. The genes are there. He only had to turn it into skills.
Pass is incomplete. It's going to be fourth
You
down.
always wait to see who the breakout player is. And over the last 10 minutes, Rating Cristobal has made himself known. Spectacular defensive play. Candow with some great plays. How about this Trojan defense? How about this secondary? It's long been an ail of even the top Trojan teams, and they have come to play tonight. Punting crew on for Monty. Short kick. You don't want to get it to Freitas. You got to watch out if you're a Trojan not to hit you. It's going to settle down right at the 50, right in the middle of the M. Perfectly placed and a perfect spot for the Trojan offense to resume play with 6:28 left to go in the third, and the momentum is with the purple and white. Tried to catch them jumping again, but they seem to want to stop every time I look over there. But there is energy for about the good 100 Trojan students that have made the 35-minute drive here north. It's a beautiful central Santa Rosa. Cole Powers and the Trojan offense set up at the 50. Powers fakes. Catch is made out wide by Jacob Havard. He breaks the tackle down the 30, and he's shoved out. Havard equals his catch total from last year. That's a start for him. We mentioned him. He might be the X factor in the success of the season for the Trojans. He has he was not great last year catching passes, but it was really all about Isaiah Blomgren. I mean, he was the man. Both Justin Wolbert and Cole Powers trusted him, and Blomgren, a spectacular athlete. He's headed to Mount St. Mary's on scholarship for lacrosse. He's one of the best, probably, lacrosse players that's ever come through Sonoma County, and he was rewarded with a scholarship, but he was so athletic, he was rewarded that as well. But with him gone, and he being really the only player that significantly could do anything in the passing game, you look elsewhere, and maybe it's Havard. Pomey, that's the physicality you see there. Bouncing off tackles, getting his jersey pulled, and he surges forward for 4 yards. It's not pretty, but that's what you got to do. 2nd and 6 from the 28. 6 minutes and counting for the Trojans. Hands on hips, tired-looking Montgomery defensive line that was absolutely annihilating the Trojans' offensive line in the first half. Powers was getting beat up. Freitas looked quiet. Wide receivers were dropping balls. Miscommunication. That first possession for the Trojans, they looked tentative and nervous, playing like it was their first varsity football game. They look like they're in their zen, in their moment. Everything they've worked for. A little touch pass. There's no one there. Powers was running for his life.
Pass is incomplete. There's a flag on the play.
Tried a bootleg maybe, but there was all sorts of issues. However, there is a flag, so maybe Monty stepped off early. They certainly got there quick. We'll await the ruling. It's been cleaner played in the second half, as you would suspect. It's on the Vikings, I believe. Can see here a little how they do the play calling. Powers sprinting over to talk to his head coach, Rick Chris.
On defense.
And I'll rush back out. Chris with his outstanding assistance as well. And they pretty much remain unchanged, which is so beneficial for the program. So you're working with the same coaches starting freshman year with outstanding freshman coach Greg Gehring, as we are going to have, I'm not sure what the penalty, I think offsides because it looks like 5 yards, and the Trojans march into the red zone. Greg Gehring, freshman coach.
1st and 10 at the Montgomery 12.
Nick Emanuel, the JV coach, does an outstanding job as well. The numbers are declining. A lot of freshmen actually played the JV game tonight, but the coaches have remained the same, and it's provided great development. That was an interesting bootleg, breaking a tackle, spinning up the middle, and down to the 10-yard line. I'm not sure it was a bootleg. That might be the right word. Powers fake one way, turn the other way. Connor Pedersen turns up with the carry, but there was lots of twirling and swirling. Timeout, Tony Kiefer. The field is tilted right now to the Trojans. 5:11 left. We're tied at 7, but the Trojans are threatening for their second score of the half, or the quarter. That has to be a happy huddle, but you can see Coach Chris quietly and calmly consoling the players. One of the most respected men on campus. True leader. Been here since 2010. And the stability is also beneficial in the coaching position. We've seen so many coaches go through so many different programs at high schools. And the Trojans with Steve Ellison for nearly 20 years. He has the field named after him. After Steve Ellison retired in 2010, Coach Chris, being an assistant coach, took over at head coach. He's been there since. 44 and 32 overall, his record, and obviously helps playing in SCL. But it was not a great start after Coach Ellison left. They had to rebuild, and over the last 4 years, he's really seen the success. Up the middle, and a couple more yards to add on, and I believe the first down. It was Pomey again. He is getting a workload, and he's you're wondering for the
Timeout Montgomery.
as Montgomery calls another timeout. They are killing the numbers.
The Trojans.
Man in front of me wants to know if his
line.
lottery ticket is correct for the 50-50, but I have no idea. It's first down and goal at the 1. Trojans trying to punch it in. They give up the middle. Touchdown, Trojans.
Touchdown, Petaluma.
Powers is pumped. The stands are pumped, and the Trojans have their first lead of the 2018 season. How about this turnaround?
Again,
13-7.
the winning number for the 50-50 raffle. 769-1505.
Cristobal will come on for the extra point. This place has turned quiet, and the O-line has turned it around. I think the man in front of me has won his 50-50 raffle.
Kinsey's a lucky winner of 60 big ones.
He's the only happy one, though, right now in this
Thank
Monty
you for your
crowd.
support. And the
Cristobal for the
Petaluma
extra kick.
cheer.
Missed an extra point, or missed a field goal earlier. Boy, have times changed. That one's a low liner, but it's good. Sneaking through the right-hand corner. And the Trojan student section
Point
and the
after
fans,
attempt is good, and
they
the
are
score is
feeling
Division
it.
Petaluma Trojans 14, your Montgomery Vikings
this has been
7.
Trojan football to a T in this third quarter. 14-7, 4:47 remaining in this third. First and 10 from the 33. There's a young quarterback in there for Montgomery, and he is going to have to make a difference, or someone else on the Vikings is going to have a spark.
Number 24, Javon Hurd on the carry.
Javon Hurd on the carry, and he goes nowhere.
Was number 13, Connor Peterson.
Patterson's had a good game tonight. The secondary defense has stepped up. They played so well. And if the Vikings are shuffling running backs, they're shuffling wide receivers. And Cole Callan in there has shown a capability to actually throw downfield a couple times. Right now it feels like that's their option because they're not getting much at the line of scrimmage. Here's a screen, except he threw it a foot over the head of the wide receiver.
Pass is incomplete. It's going to make it 3rd and 9.
And you certainly, if you're a Montgomery fan and Joey Thresh was out there at quarterback, it could be a very different story. This has been such an air attack. Austin Rapola last year and Thresh, they were a fun combination to watch. And you still have Lemos back, but he's been pretty quiet. B.J. Johnson, we saw the skill early from him in that first quarter, but we haven't seen a whole lot of much from him of late. He even had a pick. It looked like it was going to be his day, the senior, to shine. I don't think he's touched the ball in over a quarter now. Holland's just going to hand it off. Wonderful tackle at the line. Try to get the number. It's the man getting pulled up right now. I believe that's
9,
Alexander.
Cameron Perkins.
No, I'm sorry. It is.
It's going to be 4th and 2 at the Viking 42-yard line.
So nothing doing on that possession for Monty. It was. Don't have a. Oh, I'm sorry. Nick Sembita. Not a surprise as he's 6'3", 250-pound senior. Has been a starter since sophomore year. Do things. Montgomery uses another timeout. They're down to 1 timeout now. As Sembita, 10 tackles last year, a tackle for loss. Pitcher on the varsity baseball team. He probably saved a first down being converted. Montgomery needs a surge, a spark. Trojans are getting the ball back with 3:23 left in the third, leading 14-7. Punt crew's out again for Montgomery, and suddenly it has become a normality for them. Brought it 50 yards. Oh, I'm sorry. They're going for it, and they are not. No, they are going to get it. That's perspective's hard with the chains here.
On 4th down.
It looked like a punt formation at first, but they changed it and pick up the first. So that's
1st and 10 for
that's
Montgomery
something there. And as much as it feels really dead on this side of the field in the stands, and it doesn't look good on the sideline, and they look woozy and tired. They're only down 1 possession here. It is not like they are down 3 touchdowns, and the hopes are fleeting. They absolutely can get right back into this game, and they started the half so well before John Candow started making magic in the secondary. Toss to Lemos, and a good run out into Trojan territory. 7-yard pickup. Brings up a 2nd and 3.
Lemos.
They've gone to Lemos a lot of late here in the second half.
Petaluma territory at the 48. It'll make it 2nd and 3.
Mentioned no Johnson, though, for the Vikings, and we saw a bunch of Andre Williams as well in that first half, and Javon Hurd, but trying to hope with Lemos in the open field. Shifty and can get some moves, but the Trojan secondary's done a much better job of wrapping up. Delayed handoff, and he is going nowhere. Oh, he almost looked like he was on top of a Trojan defender, which was, oh, they're going to have some extracurriculars here.
Handoff.
That's going to be on the Trojans, too.
No
And the issue there was that there was no gain. It was really great defending by the Trojans. The whole defensive line wrapping them up. But as he thought that he hadn't touched the ground because he was on top of the Trojan defender, I think he had, and he was ruled down. But he kept on going, and the unsportsmanlike conduct is that, oh, it's going to go on Montgomery. Wow. It did look like it was initiated by the Trojans, but Monty has remained a very uncivilized all game. And they have not maintained their composure, even early in the game when things were going their way. And after outstanding play on the defensive line by the Trojans,
back at their 36
they have 3rd and forever, all the way back at the 36 now, and you can't go for this. 2 minutes left in the 3rd. And Holland is going to have to show off his arm again. Or he's just going to hand it off. But there is nowhere to go. Outstanding job by Trojan linebackers coming up. That's always been a strength. Pomey, Ayers, Lozano. That time it was Colton Prieto. Another outstanding linebacker returns on the varsity team. 3 tackles last year. You knew he was going to have a bigger impact this year. He is a physically gifted player and a 2-time SCO weight class winning wrestler. But the linebacker position is just so busy. He's not even getting full playing time out there. That is by far, I would say, the strongest position for the Trojans this year after you had the running back depth of last year. And also Jacob Rolston back there, linebacker as well last year, so strong last year. Bobbled punt, picks it up. Oh, that is what you do when you're a punter and you're very scared. Reese Martin.
Punt is blocked by Petaluma.
A disaster. It was not blocked, though, as the PA announcer said, but it was bad hands by Martin. He bobbled it, and he might have, if he was able to get it away and stay calm, might have been able to get it out the outstretched fingers of Sambita and DeCarly and others that were coming after him. But it's scary when 250-pound men come charging at your face, and it went off the side of his foot and might have even gone backwards. It might have been a negative gain. 1st and 10 from the Viking 31. A chance for this to become a 2-possession game and to put the Trojans in a very comfortable position. The band is given up for Montgomery. They're out. I didn't hear a lot of them either. They're playing touchdown fight songs. You're not getting a lot. We had whistles on the snap. And another late penalty. Montgomery just cannot stop the extracurriculars.
Petaluma runs the ball on 1st down. There's another flag.
And you can see the frustration on their faces. But they gave so many gifts to the Trojans in that first half. Trojans didn't take advantage of them, though their best possession that they got down inside the 4 was on the false starts. But the way they're playing now, they're going to, it's a face mask this time, and they can't do anything right. And now we have a Trojan down. Trojans do not want injuries to the offensive line. We went through it. Illness, grades, injuries, they've been an issue on the O-line, and it showed in that first half. So we're going to get the athletic trainers out and some stretching out, and probably a much-needed break for the Monty defense, who's felt like they've been out there the entire second half. Trojans leading 14-7, 50 seconds left to go here in the first, as we're good to see
Petaluma will have it 1st and 10 at the
Chris
Montgomery
Oliveira
14
get
yard
up,
line.
and he's dealt with a lot of injuries. I'm honestly surprised he was out there. He did not play in the scrimmage, and he might have just re-injured what he'd hurt before. He's limping and not looking good, but they just have so little depth on the offensive line. I think they felt like they had to play him today, and they were not expecting to. Nonetheless, right now, the field tilted. You don't need much of an offensive line. You just use your momentum, your mental stability, and the leadership you can see of the senior quarterback, Cole Powers. Calling off the coaches. He's telling the play. He's leading the troops. He hasn't really had a good night at all, and he's been frustrated out there. But he's an outstanding leader. He joined the varsity basketball team last year when they were in utter turmoil, to be honest with you. And he played so well as they give it up the middle to Pomey. He's going to pick about 3 yards. And it's going to be about a 2nd and 7. We have more injuries. This is becoming an injury fest right now.
Official timeout on the field.
Multiple Montgomery players down. They are just exhausted right now. As bad as this Trojan offensive line performed in the first half, and I feel more okay criticizing them now, they have completely worn down Montgomery, and it's not even the fourth quarter. 27 seconds left to go here in the third. 14-7, the purple and white leading the red and white. 2nd and 4 from the 8, likely the final play here of very successful third quarter for the Trojans. And now we have more conversations with the refs. This has been a black and white filled day for multiple reasons on the field, with the injuries, with the refs, with the penalties, the extracurriculars. And if it wasn't enough, we have more. That time it's a false start. I believe on Jacob Havard. He's clapping his hands like a seal out of water. So that's going to back them up. And the Trojans got away with a disastrous first half. And they're lucky that this was not against Casa Grande. This was not against Vintage. Oh, it's actually on the it's almost, it feels like every penalty right now is going against Montgomery. I thought certainly there had to be one against the Trojans. It hasn't necessarily been bad reffing. It's hard to tell up here, but everything has gone against Montgomery flag-wise. Trojans maybe have one penalty. I think a false start was in there. And guess what? We have more whistles. This time it's a timeout. If this play ever happens,
timeout Petaluma.
pigs will fly as well. 14 seconds left in the third quarter as we slowly crawl towards the third. The Trojans might not want this quarter to be over. 14 unanswered. Totally outgained the Vikings. 1st and 4. 1st and goal from the 4. Trojans looking for their 3rd touchdown of the day. The give to Freitas. There is a red wall there. He still surged forward, and he got maybe to the 2. We'll try again. Pomey has a touchdown, but you have to say the 60-yard touchdown by Garrett Freitas changed things. It changed things in this quarter, and this quarter has changed the game. Petaluma 14, Montgomery 7. The fourth quarter is coming up next. So it is another long walk for the Trojans. Not a great omen. We saw this at the end of the first quarter. They took the 98-yard walk the other way, and they never got into the end zone. Cristobal attempted a field goal, and they didn't score. That was a different time and a different place. Freitas off to Powers left, but they're in the diamond. Give to Pomey. Up the middle, surging, diving, and he never made it. Excellent job. Derek Pomey is, we mentioned it, one of the toughest guys you will meet, mentally and physically. But Monty standing up there.
Petaluma and
again, you get that quarter break. It does give you a little bit of time to rest, recover, and recuperate, and kind of mentally you can look at it as a new time, new quarter, new place. And that could help here. Trojans absolutely will want to go to 2 possessions, and Cristobal kicking a lot better, making his 2 PATs if they don't make it in. But you want 6. Diamond form again. Pomey in the backfield. Powers will fake out wide, and he walks into the end zone. Touchdown, Trojans. Wonderful play design. They drew it up in practice. There's the chest bump, and it's 20-7. Powers pumped up, 20 points unanswered and counting. And last time they just ran it up. They ran it up the middle of the first 2 quarters. In the on third down, they try to slant out wide, but this time the fake fooled everyone, and Powers walked in untouched. And you see college teams do that, NFL teams do that. I mean, to run that to perfection and to have defenders fooled, that's hours in practice, hours in the hot July and August sun, spending time at football camp, getting a chemistry that goes beyond the basics. Cristobal has some adrenaline in that kick. It is 21-7, 11-11. The Trojans have made it a 2-possession game, and they are knocking on the door of putting this away and going to 1-0 on the season. Trojans trying to finish this off. Look like it could be a long night for them early. They didn't get down on themselves. The football falls off the tee. That was key to hanging in there in a really ugly, rough first half. And good things are going to happen to you, and they already had good things happening in the first half. They had luck. Freitas made a great interception in the end zone. Monty could have gone up 14-0. And you know that would have changed things. What a fielding play by number 57. He takes a huge hit, though.
Short kick picked up by number 57, Joe Martinez.
And it's Cristobal again.
He takes it to the Petaluma 45-yard line.
Well, Martini of Montgomery did an excellent job fielding it. He did have to pay the price, though, by raiding Cristobal, who has been spectacular out there. 2 memorable back-to-back, beautiful defensive plays at cornerback. And Garrett Freitas has really developed at the cornerback position. He's pretty much set down who he's covering. They've had to look elsewhere, but Candow, Cristobal have stepped up. Shattuck and Pedersen, both varsity returners, have stepped into larger roles this year, and they've done well. 1st and 10, though, from the Monty 45. Good field position. It feels like they need to score on this possession, or they are in serious trouble. Just can't play cleanly. There's going to be issues first game of the year. Trojans had issues in that first half. I feel like I'm just a record now.
False start on the offense.
But they fixed it in the second half.
5. It'll be 1st and 15 at midfield.
And it's snowballed for Montgomery. It feels like it's getting worse and worse as the false start. And now they're back in their own side of the field. Monty mentioned heads to Casa next week. Then they're at Oakland. That's a long road trip. And then they're at Windsor. 3 games on the road in a row, and then they'll start their league schedule. Little toss out wide. Lemos, though, nowhere to go.
Pitch out to number 21, Gavin Lemos. Picks up about a yard. It's gonna be
only got a yard. Quickly forced out
line.
by number 13 on the Trojans. Connor Patterson again. The Red Storm believes that they will win. But right now it feels like they might need a storm to stop this game. We have another injury. Coach Chris has come out, and this is very hard to see because he's being the Trojan player is obstructed by the Monty players in front, but to see Coach Chris come out is not a good sign. It means it could be serious. And no idea who that is. Oh, that is Garrett Freitas. Well, that's no wonder that Coach Chris came out to see his star running back hobbling, and that is not a good sign. Trying to stretch it out. You hope it's just a cramp in that left foot or left leg, and that's nothing similar, but he is favoring it right now, and if the Trojan defense can continue to play well, he is not going to play the rest of the night. And the Trojans have to go into Santa Rosa. We mentioned a young team next week feeling confident. If Freitas is at all concerned about your health, you wouldn't be surprised to hold him out. They're going to need him against Terra Linda the next week, and they're going to need him in the future. Looking downfield, it should have been intercepted. Cristobal could have capped off his night. Don't know where that one was thrown. Diving backwards, Cristobal almost made a spectacular interception. It went right through his hands. He is covering every inch of this field tonight. It's been impressive. 3rd and 15. Cole Holland made a couple throws, but it has not been enough tonight. He's no Joey Thresh. B.J. Johnson has been silent. It's been all Trojans. Tale of two halves tonight. Trojans after Santa Rosa. They're home against Terra Linda. It'll be their home opener. It will be a lot of fun. And not only that, but it's going to be the first game at Ellison Field for them in nearly a year and a half for Trojan football. Escaping and beating another man. Now he's diverted to his left. And finally, the Trojans bring him down. There's a little spark.
Number 9 on the Wildcat, Cameron Perkins, scrambles into Trojan territory.
Cameron Perkins out of the Wildcat. I was definitely a little confused myself at first because I knew that wasn't Cole Holland. He can't run like that. But Perkins, who's had a couple nice runs at running back,
Vikings have
shifty
a first
player,
and 10 at the Petaluma,
got into the secondary and
30-yard
was
line.
finally dragged down at the 30, but there's some movement here for Monty. This game isn't done yet. Trojans last played at Steve Ellison Field back in 2016. Obviously, all of last year at Casa Grande. With the field under repair, ball on the ground, broken play, and Williams just has to
fumble on the snap,
pick it up and only lose a yard or two. Could have been disaster
Tackle
if a Trojan
loss.
player had dived on the ground. It'll just be a loss of 2, 2nd and 12. Artificial turf field as well, but to be honest,
2nd and 12
you cannot top
at the
top
32-yard line.
the Trojan football field and to have a real game on it in front of hundreds of purple and white clad fans with the purple end zones, the artificial turf, the new seating area, snack shack. It's gonna be spectacular, and it's gonna be live streamed too. August 31st. Kickoffs at 7. We'll be live on YouTube. Do not miss it. Either be there or you want to be watching. It should be a fun game against Terra Linda. That was the best game in my mind of the season last year when those teams matched up. And I know this game was a lot of fun last year, and it has had a very different feel as we have another fall start. That's been part of the feel tonight. But the Trojans played Terra Linda 2 years ago as well in their senior night, and that was a good game. Those teams
So it'll be 2nd and 16
know how to put up points,
for the
but what we've seen tonight here is
at Petaluma's
maybe the defense is going to be the
37-yard
strength tonight for the Trojans. And that would be obviously very different, I think, from the last 5-ish years of the Coach Chris era. That's definitely been offensively focused. But a team that has relied on the ground, and they've been more mixed tonight. Powers, a couple completions in that third quarter, really felt like he'd open up. They're gunning it out. This has interception written all over it. It's incomplete. I mean, they're just throwing up balls down, trying to get it.
Johnson's incomplete.
But the Trojan secondary has
Double coverage
no
play by
windows
Petaluma.
open.
Broke it up. It's going to be 3rd and 16.
Freitas was in the area. I'm sorry, not Freitas. Number 9 for the Trojans. John Candow again. Along with Gianni Johnson and Dominic Butts, who made a costly mistake to start the game, a disastrous way. The ball was kicked to him on the kickoff, and he was trying to catch it, even though Freitas was easily able to get to it. And miscommunication, Butts took it, but he went nowhere. They got bad field position. Linebackers are blitzing, but that left a hole wide open, taking off with more room, scampering all the way across the field and getting the first down.
Number 9 on the quarterback keeper, Cameron Perkins.
How about Perkins? He's come in out of the Wildcat. He's tried some throws. They haven't worked out. But this new look has been more effective. It's really just mixed things up.
19-yard line of Petaluma.
And if the Vikings could score a touchdown here, they're back in this one. A 2-score game is a lot bigger than a 1-score game, and it puts the pressure back on the Trojan offense, one that scored 3 straight possessions nonetheless. But you never know. 2 split out wide each way. Perkins looking for the play call from the sideline. He's got plenty of time, looking in the end zone. It's intercepted. Spectacular. Freitas is back out there, and he makes his name known. 2 it picks tonight in the end zone by Freitas. He signals 2. Oh, look at the hug. That's some coach and player love there, hugging the defensive coordinator. He's done his job tonight. More than scoring touchdown to running back, but he has been unthrowable in the secondary. And they've only looked at him about 5 times, I'd say, Monty quarterbacks, and 2 of the times he's picked them off. Trojans will take over, and the window that was there for Montgomery feels snapped shut. Now, Freitas broke out last year against the Vikings. 2 touchdown returns. He hasn't done anything of that sort tonight, but 2 interceptions as we have a little bit of shoving that is broken up quickly, but some frustration by the Vikings. Freitas scored a touchdown. He's answered the call through adversity, and he's looked rusty at times. He was sick. He hasn't played as much. He hasn't 100% looked himself, but when you step through the adversity, work through your challenges, that's what 2 champions are made of. Freitas, all SCL running back of the year last year, will certainly challenge and Vine Valley for that as Pomey goes up the middle, bringing up a 3rd and 6 from the 30, and the Trojans are a key to run the clock. Freitas last year had 1 pick, 11 tackles, 5 passes defense. He really developed over the course of the year. Actually, a little bit twist of ironic fate. He was burned a couple times last year against Montgomery. What a play over the middle.
Passes
first down.
5.
That is what you want to see from the Trojans, getting some complete passing, and they tried that play in the first half. There was confusion, and Freitas did not make the catch that time. He was aware, ready for it in the slot position, almost functioning as a tight end, and that just totally confuses the Montgomery defense. It did the first time, it did this time, and this time they connected. About 4 completions tonight for Powers, and for a Trojan offense that doesn't pass a lot, it's been successful, and it will keep the clock running. Montgomery only 1 timeout if they want to stop it as well. And they'll continue to put it down the throat or take it out wide to Freitas. Look out! Eddie is just tripped up. Oh, what a play.
Garrett Freitas.
All the way to the 40. He picked up the momentum at the 50. You could see the bottom of his gold cleats. And when he is kicking like that, that's not a good sign. But someone, I think, got him in the leg, and he's been sprawling forward. If not for that, he'd likely be dancing in the end zone and giving more coaches hugs. Monty cheerleaders, the only ones making noise on this side of the field. The clock continues to run down to 6. Freitas last year, all SCL running back, he had 83.6 total yards per game. It was second only to the starting quarterback, Justin Wolbert, who's now graduated. Go up the middle for just a yard or 2. Freitas, 70 carries overall in the year, 655 yards, 72.8 yards per game as we see an injured player.
Injury timeout on the field.
He had 9.4 yards per carry on 6 touchdowns, and also 97 yards through the air over the course of the year, including 2 touchdowns through the air. And that doesn't even go through his kickoffs, as this is a Trojan player that is down. And another offensive lineman. It is a bug right now. And it's Nick Sambita, who's been healthy. And he is getting his legs stretched out. It's not a hot night out at all. It's good 55 degrees probably at this point. It was pretty warm to start, so I don't really know why. I think it's just been physical. But that's not a good sign. He's really struggling to walk on his right foot. But we saw Freitas have issues, and he's right back out there doing his thing. He's getting some assistance from a police officer as well. And the Trojan athletic trainer. The father of Raiden Cristobal, actually, the Trojan athletic trainer. And he has to be a proud parent as well tonight. There's also a Monty player that went off slowly as well. So 2nd and 9 from the 39. Freitas did only have 2 returns for touchdowns, kick returns, and those were both in that Montgomery game, but he broke a lot for big gains. He averaged 26.4 yards per return. And he was someone that obviously other teams watched on film and they were scared of. Tried to kick it away from him, but it could be hard. Powers is waiting. The ref is waiting. He looks at his watch. Clearly not eager to... Oh, man, that is not what a proper football play looks like. And I finally do believe that this penalty is on the Trojans.
False start.
Surprised it didn't get a sarcastic laugh from the Monty fans the way the penalties have been, but there has been some rusty calls. It's been undisciplined play. Freitas also, we saw him try to return a punt, a couple punts tonight as well. He's not actually brought any back, but 55 yards on punt return yards, but they took him off that pretty quickly because it's just much more dangerous to punt return. One split out wide, 2nd and 14, diamond form for the Trojans. Ooh, the fake toss up the middle to give to Freitas. How is he still going? All the way to out of bounds at the 35. A late hit, too. And that got the sideline for the Trojans. Not happy that Monty was picking on their all-pro running back. Don't see any flags, though. I don't know how late. Really hard to see from this end of the field.
Going to be 3rd and about 3.
So 3rd and 5, but that's you really like that play again too from Powers. That football almost looks like it's out of his hand, and he's able to maintain it and give it off to Freitas. I mean, it's beyond just the skill that you have to have and the practice over and over again to master it, but the technique as well, especially with the hands. And obviously you have to have big hands as a quarterback, but it's not something that you think about as much in football except for maybe the wide receivers. Powers has got a hole. He cuts back. It's a foot race for him, and he does the smart thing in a 14-point lead and jogs out of bounds.
Number 2, Cole Powers.
He's hopping on his feet.
Put out of bounds by number 7, B.J. Johnson.
Gives a high five to his bud Freitas. B.J. Johnson, forces him out. That's the first time, though, we have heard his name in a long, long time. He went quiet and did not return. Trojans in the red zone now. And looking like the potential chance for 4 touchdowns in the last 4 possessions. And on all possessions, actually, in the second half. Compared to maybe about 7 possessions probably in that first half, and they never scored. And the ball is on the ground. Power was hit
on the handoff in the backfield.
As he was trying to toss it to Freitas. The ball came out, but he landed back on it. That could have made things interesting if Monty had gotten a scoop and score there. The Trojans have had the luck of the draw. 3 turnovers tonight by the Vikings. That has not helped. Won by the Trojans. Powers threw a poor decision on an interception early, but he has made up for things since.
Petaluma recovers the fumble. They have it.
Second and 15.
Down at the 20, second and 14.
Right at the 20. After that Terra game we mentioned, well, there's just going to be more excitement at Ellison Field. It's going to be exciting first two games. Homecoming is the next game against El Molino. Much earlier this year, they want to hope to have a successful homecoming, and the Trojans have a better record against the Lions than any other team this century, 13-1. The Lions are a good team. Powers running off his back foot, throwing it up, touchdown, spectacular. He's a magician.
Touchdown, Petaluma.
How did he throw it off his
Flag
back
in the
foot,
backfield.
out of balance? Him and Garrett Freitas have a special connection. There is a flag. There might be a hold. But it was just so spectacular to watch that even if it comes back, everyone has to appreciate that. There was no passing threat last year for the Trojans with the exception of Isaiah Blomgren. Cole Powers showed something last year with his arm, and you knew this year he was going to have a shot, but you were worried after that first half. Some poor decisions. It's on Montgomery. It is a touchdown for the Trojans.
They will replay
Oh, no, I'm sorry. My bad. Offsetting penalties. Disappointing it doesn't count, but it was still spectacular. And you don't see Freitas as much as a wide receiver. We're getting chop blocks. We got 2 offsetting penalties there. I mean, they are just calling everything. I don't see a chop block called much too, but if my hand signals expertise are right there, that's what that was. Under 4 to go, second and 15. Freitas with, I think, 3 catches from Powers tonight. He split out as a wide receiver. That seems to be his favorite target. He found Havard once, who's expected to have a force. Pomey stumbles forward for a couple more yards.
44,
and he'll keep the clock running here. It was a late start as well, 7:30.
5 yards.
And we've
It's gonna be
passed
3rd and 9.
the 10 o'clock hour here in Santa Rosa.
13-yard line of Montgomery.
El Molino will be the homecoming game. Trojans, if they can keep this up, they play the way they play defensively and offensively in the second half. They have a chance to complete non-league and go 4-0 and go to a very good American Canyon team with a huge game. Coach Chris did want to schedule Annalee this year, but Annalee was busy. El Molino, the second choice. And even, I mean, you can't throw away El Molino, just like even though the Trojans have been Terra Linda the last 2 years. They're good football teams. Trojans match up well against El Molino. It is somehow not intercepted.
Pass is incomplete.
Poor decision by Powers there. 3rd and 9. After El Molino, as mentioned, at American Canyon. That is the start of the Vine Valley Athletic League. And
4th down for Petaluma.
it's gonna be tough sledding against American Canyon. Their first game at the Wolves. It's a spectacular facility, too, in American Canyon. I'm not looking forward to the drive, but I am looking forward to seeing the stadium. But they are big players at American Canyon, and the Trojans have the conditioning. That's one of the things that they always pride themselves on. But it's going to be hard to wear down some of these top VVL AL teams this year. Trojans will continue to be on the road after that. They're at a game Justin Sienna team, much smaller. They go from D1 to D4. Powers, with time, over the middle, overthrew it.
Pass is incomplete.
Had a man.
Gavin Kincaid, number 20 on the defending.
Was looking for Connor
Montgomery
Pedersen
taking
over the
over
middle,
on
trying to
downs.
get his second varsity touchdown of his career.
1st and 10 at their 15-yard
That was 4th
line.
down, so Monty will get the ball back. They need a very quick touchdown, and then an onside kick, and then another quick touchdown. And it looks like they're going to stay here with the backup, who's not on my sheet, but Holland had proven effective late here, and he is standing lonely on the sideline right now. This quarterback could run for Monty, but at this point you don't have time to run. He'll have to air it out, and he does. He's got a man for a first down, spinning away, breaking a tackle. Trojans want to try to avoid to get him out of bounds, and I believe they did. That's a good job at least avoiding him getting out of bounds, and it keeps that clock ticking.
Pass complete from number 9, Cameron Perkins.
Perkins out to the 30.
Number 4,
Or I'm sorry,
Andre Williams.
Perkins is the quarterback.
Making first down
Andre Williams the
at
catch.
the 30-yard line.
Second leading receiver behind Johnson tonight for the Vikings. 2:46. I guess he did get out of bounds. I thought they stopped him. Prieto and Pedersen were in the area. Perkins made some poor decisions downfield, though, and lucky he's not intercepted. He couldn't run. Great job by the secondary. Oh, he had a man, and he underthrew it.
Pass is incomplete.
It's that tough decision when you're a defender,
line.
whether you want to go after the quarterback who might run or you just stay with your defender, and there they decide to go after the quarterback. But it was just too scary for Dawkins, and he chicken-darmed it towards his wide-open wide receiver who had been left by the Trojan secondary. But a good job containing him. Dangerous in the open field. We already saw it. He had a 30-yard run. 2:38 left to go here. 2nd and 10. Only one timeout left as well for Montgomery if they want to stop the clock. Low throw is hauled in. I'm not even sure, though, if you want that if you're Montgomery. It just keeps on running the clock. It was Johnson that time, the senior, 6'4", 185. They got some big wide receivers, but when they have gone up 1-1, smaller Trojan secondary, and it is a small Trojan secondary, has beat them to it. Pedersen's 5'7", 145. Johnny Johnson a little bit bigger, but we've seen Kando, and you walk by Kando in school, you would not guess that he's a football player. No offense to the senior. Also well below 6 feet. Oh, he's aired it out here. Cristobal in coverage. Oh, my goodness. You might have not saw it, but that time Cristobal was unable to get a hand on it. The ball was thrown well, and it was just dropped. He was juggling it. He was kind of falling backwards. It certainly wasn't easy, but at this point in time, you had to haul that in. And the Red Storm has evacuated the premises. 4th and 5. You have to go for it. This is the ball game. Kendo is 5'7", 132, to be exact. Shattuck, who we've seen 5'6", 135. Havard's a little bigger. Havard much bigger at 6'2". Freitas 5'10", 110. I mean, you have 4 out of your 5 starters in the secondary are under 6 feet. That's risky. Over the middle. Oh, Pomey didn't have to pick it. He nearly did. A really great play by Pomey. That takes in 6 as a linebacker to play in that zone and read that football, and he has essentially ended this football game. 21-7 Trojans, 146, and all they need now are a few knees. Montgomery will see if they try to stop the clock here, but there is little hope left. Trojans haven't done even that much in this 4th quarter. They've just winded the clock down and done a superb job at game managing these last 12 minutes. 1 quarter, 3 straight possessions of touchdowns. We're going through their Trojan schedule. Justin Siena, they're a game D4 team, but the Trojans will probably be favored against the Crusaders, who played in MCAL last year. They were about 500 in MCAL. Including they lost to Terra Linda, but played competitive, so that's kind of a reference point. Give to Prieto up the middle. Nothing there. And Montgomery will use its timeouts, I believe. Or the rest just really enjoy using their whistles. Well, the clock is stopped either way. 1:34 remaining. After Justin Siena, the Trojans will have a bye. That's actually a false start.
False start, Petaluma. Back him up 5 yards.
And there'll be things to improve on their offensive line, and especially because the players in VVAL are so big. Even at Justin Siena, that O-line is going to have to continue and improve. Powers was running for his life. He was getting killed in the first half against the Montgomery team that's not that much bigger than the Trojans. I'm sorry, Trojans, though, with the bye, they actually play Vintage at home. Oh, that's, wow. And trying to avoid any extracurriculars. Good job there by a couple Trojan players holding some people back. There were some Petaluma players that were trying to stand up for Cole Powers, who was kind of unnecessarily wrestled to the ground in Montgomery frustration, but shows the leadership on the field holding back some of the people with a little bit of a thinner fuse. Unnecessary roughness will be the call. Automatic first down for the Trojans, and with 1:12 left and no timeouts, no one timeout for Montgomery. They don't, taking a knee wouldn't run out the clock totally just yet. Vintage game on September 20th. That's probably the hardest game on the Trojan schedule. The Crushers were very, very good last year. I don't have their exact record, but they were in the Monticello League with some other large teams like Wood. Trojan saw Rodriguez. They're in that league. Trojan saw Rodriguez a couple years ago and got blown out by that team from Fairfield. They play in some monstrous stadiums, too. Trojans will not go to Memorial Stadium this year as Powers takes the knee and the clock will run. Memorial Stadium, where both Napa and Vintage play, probably is the largest football stadium in the North Bay. It's supposed to be pretty spectacular. But Trojans will get Vintage at Napa at home, which has to help in those games. But those will be tough sledding, no doubt. Then they have the bye after the Vintage game. At Sonoma Valley, their old SCL foe, they'll get to continue to play the rival Dragons. And they'll follow that up back home against Napa. And the Indians have been going through some rebuilding. They've been a powerhouse in the years past, but not lately. That will be the final knee, and on October 27th, the Trojans will wrap it up versus Casa, their regular season. But in the first game, it's a sweet W for the Trojans. Clock ticking down, waiting for the final whistle as they line up. The Trojan supporters rise to their feet, and that is it.
The end of the game.
The final score here tonight, Petaluma Trojans 21, Montgomery Vikings 7. Stay tuned. Interviews are coming up next with some very happy Trojans. We are here with John Candow and Raiden Cristobal. It was a very tough start to this game. The defense kept you guys both as defensive backs, really kept the team in the game. How are you guys able to maintain your poise and keep on coming up with big plays?
Well, part of it has to go with just all the players on the team. Coach motivating us, saying stay in this, for the whole first half. We were pretty much just down 7-0. That's one score, so we got to make sure that we keep it to one score and don't let them get any more of a lead.
Both of you had back-to-back spectacular plays in the third quarter. John, you had 2 near interceptions, and Raiden, you had 2 really impressive breakups. How important in the third quarter was that to turning around the game?
Well, it's pretty important because obviously we just got up a couple points and we got to keep it, and our defense really showed up today.
Neither of you guys got playing time on varsity last year. You were on JV, Raiden, and you were out with an injury, John. How important was this game for you guys coming out in really your first varsity game and able to have a performance like this?
Well, it's always good to make a good first impression, but it's all about the team. It's not about how we individually play, it's how the team plays, and stepping up obviously was good, but it's all about the team.
Well said.
This team is very young. You guys got down and things weren't going well. The offense couldn't move at all. How are you guys, even as such a young team, able to hold it together and just keep on playing football?
Well, I like to thank Mr. Chris. He really turned our switch on, made us all mad, and we definitely shut it on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Chris definitely motivated us in the second half, no question.
We are here with Garrett Freitas after the Trojans get the 21-7 victory. Team was really struggling in that first half, especially the offense. You looked out of sorts. The whole offense looked out of sorts. How was the switch turned on in that second half?
At halftime, our coach said some words to us, got us going. We picked up on what they were doing in the first half, adjusted to it, and from there it was,
That touchdown in the third quarter changed the game. You guys had third and about 8, I think, at your own 40. Still not a lot was going on in the offense, and Monty had a nice drive before that. Take us through that play, and how did that change the whole environment here?
Well, I knew it was going to be open because they blitzed their middle linebackers the entire game, which leaves the outside open and just a safety to beat. And if our wide receiver blocked the corner good, then it was there. But it's the best feeling. It gets the entire team going, changes the momentum immensely, and totally puts the game on our side. And, yeah.
Last year, the defense got really burned by Montgomery, and obviously a different quarterback tonight. But tonight, the defensive backs were the stars. You had 2 interceptions. John and Raiden really broke out tonight as well. What can you say about this entire core of the defensive back, and how much can the secondary be a strength this year after a weakness last year?
Ooh, it's really important that our defense steps up this year, and I think that we showed a lot this year, or this game, into what we can do, because both wide receivers have D1 potential, and we stood with them all game, which is big, and it's really good for our confidence, gets us going, and I think that's a good way to start off the year with our secondary going strong.
Thank you so much, Garrett. Congratulations. We are here with head coach of the Trojans, Rick Christ, after the Trojans get a very interesting opening victory of the season here against Montgomery. You guys had a first half that definitely did not go well at all. You guys were in the locker room for an extra amount of time. What did you say to the team to help them turn around?
One of the things is that, we played a terrible half of football, and we were still just down by 7 points. I thought that they needed to believe in themselves and come out, and I challenged the offensive line, and I thought the offensive line really stepped it up in the second half.
Lines are always so important, and as you mentioned, the O-line did not look good in that first half. In that second half, the O-line was strong. The defensive line really caused issues for Montgomery. What can you say about the hard work that they're putting in there?
Well, defensive line, I thought our defense played well the whole game. So I'm very proud of them, and we've got a couple of guys that are new to the game playing defensive ends. Kenny Alexander played great, for first time putting on the pads. He looked like a veteran. But we had a lot of guys that contributed on defense. But on the offensive side, we're just a little bit behind. Picking up blitzes and things like that, we were able to figure out what their timing was, and we had some good adjustments at halftime. So it made things a little bit easier for them, but I just thought their performance in the second half was so much better, and it really made a big difference. And I think that on the defensive side, I thought our corners were the big factor of keeping them out of the end zone. We put some pressure, and the linebackers did great, but I thought our corners, those are 2 guys that could play D1 football, and they shut them down the whole game, so that was really great.
It's very hard for a high school football team to go through adversity in a game, especially the first game of the season, especially with a very young team like this with not a lot of returning players that got significant playing time. How are you guys able to stay calm on the sideline and just keep on playing football, because that's what it looked like out there?
Well, you know what, we talked a lot about discipline, and a lot of the let me get that, apologize.
No worries.
A lot of the penalties that Montgomery had, it was because of lack of discipline, and we thought we did a really great job. We had low numbers in penalties, and you know what? It really panned out for us.
Thank you so much, Coach. Congratulations. All right. Thank you to Coach Chris. Thank you to Garrett Freitas. And thank you to John Candow and Raiden Cristobal. What a night here at Montgomery High School. It couldn't have started worse. Everything was out of sorts in that first half. But you heard what Coach Chris said there. And as I was waiting to get interviews and he's talking to the whole team, there was something special, and you could feel it, the tightness around this team, the chemistry, and this team is so young, but there's key senior leaders and there's talented players stepping up right now. Something special might be happening in the coming weeks and months in Petaluma football. They get the 21-7 victory today. Candown Cristobal had to be the breakout stars, but Freitas did it all. He scored a touchdown. Defensively, he's key. The defensive back shut down Montgomery. Outstanding play just overall by the defense the whole game. And the offense found something in that second half, and they got Montgomery down and out, and the Trojans never played down and out. Mental side of the game, so important. We mentioned it throughout the broadcast, and the Trojans proved that they got a very good mental game. They'll take on Santa Rosa next week. Pomey, their captain, said it at the end, we want to play a full 4 quarters. They did not play well in the first 2 quarters tonight, but it was enough for the victory after an outstanding third quarter. That's going to do it here from the Montgomery High football field. If you missed any part of the game, it will be here for these next 2 days after the game. We are going to take it down for the remainder of the season due to having teams not just going online and getting the film for free instead of actually exchanging film, which is a reasonable issue. So that is what we were doing with all games and live streams. So make sure you check it out over the weekend because it will be off until whenever the Trojan season finishes in November. I'm Griffin Epstein. Thank you for tuning in. Trojans get a 21-7 victory. Next broadcast live stream, August 31st. We'll be live a little bit before 7 against Terra Linda. That's going to do it. Good night, everyone.